For decades, the United States military has pursued ambitious goals, staying ahead of emerging threats, preserving deterrence, ensuring that when called upon it can project power reliably and responsively, and crucially, doing so in a way that strengthens stability rather than provoking reckless escalation. Over recent years, that pursuit has moved from incremental improvement to a qualitative leap. A new generation of strike capability is now coming into view, one that promises to reshape how the U.S. can act, where it can act, and how swiftly. At the heart of this leap is the development of extremely high-speed, long-range, precision-guided strike systems, weapons that travel at hypersonic speeds, operate across domains land, sea, air, space, and integrate cutting-edge sensors, command networks and guidance systems. While these systems are still being fielded and refined, the very fact that they are shifting from concept to operational reality marks a major turning point. To appreciate the scale of what is happening, consider how traditional strike operations have worked. In many cases, U.S. forces would rely on manned aircraft, cruise missiles, ballistic missiles, or long-range artillery and rockets. These are potent, but each comes with trade-offs. A manned aircraft must transit enemy airspace or friendly space and often requires support from aerial refueling, protection from enemy air defenses, and suitable basing. Cruise missiles, while allowing precision and standoff, typically fly at sub or low supersonic speeds, making them vulnerable to emerging detection, tracking, and interception regimes. Artillery and rockets are effective regionally, but their ranges are limited or their logistics heavy. Against a well-prepared adversary with layered defenses, fixed air defenses, mobile anti-access area denial systems, and modern sensors, these traditional strike options may face higher risk or reduced effectiveness. Now imagine a strike weapon that can be launched from land, sea or air, travel at speeds of Mach 5 or greater, that is, 5 times the speed of sound or more, maneuver in flight, reach distant, time-critical targets, and evade or overwhelm many of the defenses that decelerate or complicate older systems. That is not science fiction. The U.S. military is very actively developing and fielding such hypersonic strike systems. The potential benefits are profound. Vastly reduced reaction times, the ability to engage targets from farther away or with less dependence on forward basing, and greater ability to operate inside or around adversary-defended zones. One of the leading examples of this shift is the U.S. Army's Long-Range Hypersonic Weapon, LRHW, also known by the development name, Dark Eagle. This weapon is being developed as a ground-launched, surface-to-surface hypersonic boost glide weapon with a range measured in the thousands of miles and speeds well above Mach 5. What distinguishes it from earlier systems is the combination of speed, maneuverability, and networked integration. Because the glide vehicle component is mounted atop a rocket booster, it launches via a rocket, then transitions into a glide phase at high altitude with the ability to maneuver, adjust its trajectory, and strike targets with precision. From a strategic perspective, this gives the U.S. a new kind of prompt strike capability. Instead of waiting hours or even days for an aircraft to reach a target or a cruise missile to transit slower airspace, a hypersonic weapon can compress the timeline. The notion of time-critical strike becomes far more real. In some contested regions, for example the Indo-Pacific, where an adversary's anti-access area denial A2AD network is designed to keep U.S. forces out of range or subject them to high risk, these new systems offer a way of opening the door. As one analyst put it, these weapons could reduce the number of missiles required for a mission by up to 75% compared to older forces in some scenarios. In other words, fewer systems, less exposure, and faster effect. Importantly, the U.S. approach to this advancement has several positive dimensions beyond mere speed and lethality. First, integration into joint networks means that these missiles are not independent, fire-and-forget lumps of metal, but part of sensor-shoot-kill chains that span land, sea, air, and space assets. That means early detection, real-time targeting updates, dynamic retargeting, and post-strike battle damage assessment. For example, in an exercise called Resolute Hunter, the LRHW battery was deployed and integrated with joint echelons and digital kill chains, demonstrating how U.S. forces are preparing not just the missile but the systems of which it is a part. Second, the development emphasizes deterrence and stabilization, the idea being that if potential adversaries know the U.S. can strike swiftly and precisely from far away, with minimal warning, then they may be deterred from aggression, rather than forced into escalation. It is more than just, bang, it is about strategic credibility. That's a positive shift from some older doctrines which emphasized overwhelming mass and destruction. Third, these capabilities are being developed with conventional, non-nuclear payloads in many cases. That matters because it reduces risks of miscalculation. The Congressional Research Service explains that U.S. hypersonic weapons, unlike some Russian or Chinese systems, are being designed primarily for conventional strike missions rather than nuclear. That means the line between nuclear and conventional remains clearer, which helps with strategic stability. In short, the U.S. is trying to field faster, smarter strike weapons that are conventional, networked, and timely. Of course, technology growth is rarely linear, and challenges abound, yet it is precisely the fact that many of those challenges are being addressed that signals we are entering a new era. For example, hypersonic weapons generate extreme heating, high aerodynamic loads, complex guidance demands, and require sensors and command links that can keep up with the speed and maneuverability. Deploying them from land or sea also challenges logistics, mobility, survivability, and training. Some recent reports indicate that though progress is being made, certain programs have not yet adopted the very latest digital engineering tools such as digital twins, which could reduce cost and schedule. Despite that, the momentum is unmistakable. This new weapon class does not stand alone. It is part of a broader transformation within the U.S. military: long-range fires, multi-domain operations, unmanned systems, space and cyber convergence, and resilient networks. Consider how sensors are evolving. Radars, satellites, distributed sensors, artificial intelligence all help locate, track, classify and feed targeting data. The hypersonic missile is the punch from that network. Because if you know where a moving, mobile, time-sensitive target is, you can send a missile or other strike asset rapidly, and hypersonic systems shrink the time the target has to react. One of the sources notes that a hypersonic strike reduces reaction time by up to 6 times compared to traditional missiles. For a world where adversaries are mobile, dispersed, networked, and concealing themselves, shrinking reaction time is a game changer. From a tactical point of view, this capability changes what is possible in contested environments. Imagine a scenario in which a forward base is denied, ships are forced to remain farther away due to threat of anti-ship missiles, airfields are under threat of long-range fires. Under the older model, U.S. forces might be compelled to wait for enemy systems to open a window, or to suppress defenses for days, or to rely on remote UAVs and drones at risk. With hypersonic strikes, a decision maker could choose to engage critical nodes deep inside an A2/AD envelope quickly, before an adversary has time to reposition, regenerate defenses, or call in further reinforcements. That could mean the difference between surprise and stalemate. It could also reduce the risk for forward-deployed forces by allowing effects from safer standoff ranges. From a global posture standpoint, the U.S. is reinforcing the message that it can operate from a distance, across many environments, and over long time zones of conflict. That matters when alliances are stressed, when forward basing is contested, and when global power projection must be resilient against disruption. If a partner nation is concerned about basing rights or access constraints, the ability to launch from sea or from afar offers strategic flexibility. Sea-based hypersonic launch is already being demonstrated by the U.S. Navy in cooperation with the U.S. Army. This means that even if fixed bases are challenged, strike capability remains. Another positive dimension is that these systems promote innovation and industrial competitiveness. The manufacturers, the research labs, the engineers and the scientists engaged in hypersonic work are pushing materials science, propulsion, including scramjets and glide bodies, high-temperature aerodynamics, guidance and sensor fusion, advanced manufacturing, digital modeling and test range infrastructure. Every time a hurdle is cleared, it yields spin-offs and technical know-how that benefit other sectors. While the primary mission is military, the secondary effect is an uptick in advanced engineering, manufacturing jobs, and technological leadership. It's also worth noting the versatility of employment. Because hypersonic weapons travel so fast, the time a target has to respond is shortened significantly. That means fewer chances for adversaries to hide, for them to reposition, for them to activate countermeasures. That speed, combined with maneuverability, threatens to disrupt adversary decision cycles. In conflict, the faster you sense decide-act loop you impose on the enemy, the greater your advantage. Hypersonic strike systems help you impose a severely compressed timeline on adversary leadership and forces. That puts pressure on adversaries to act, rather than them being able to act free of immediate consequences. Because of all these factors, the secret weapon concept is more than hype. It is real in the sense that the US is fielding next-generation capability that changes calculus. The world takes note not only because of speed, but because of the combination, long-range, precision, networked strike, and strategic flexibility. This enhances deterrence and broadens options for decision-makers. When you have capability to act swiftly and decisively, you also have the ability to shape conflict dynamics before a wide-scale escalation. Moreover, from an allied perspective, this capability reassures partners and strengthens commitments. Allies in the Indo-Pacific, Europe, and elsewhere see in U.S. long-range, rapid strike capability a guarantee that their security commitments are backed by forces that can deliver even in the most challenged environments. That helps maintain credible deterrence and reduces incentives for partners to build redundant, less capable systems. It simplifies burden sharing in some respects and improves strategic alignment. Of course, while this is exciting, the US must also proceed responsibly. Because faster, longer-range weapons can increase risks of misinterpretation, escalation, or mistaken targeting, the development is accompanied by steps to improve command and control, transparency and safeguards. The US recognizes that advancing strike capability must be balanced by doctrine, oversight, and thoughtful policy. To that point, the fact that many of these systems are conventional, non-nuclear, helps mitigate a dangerous arms race spiral and helps maintain clearer strategic signaling. The fact that collaboration across services, Army, Navy, Air Force, is underway is also encouraging. Rather than having multiple stovepiped programs, there is effort to synchronize hypersonic strike capabilities with existing forces and networks. In reviewing this shift, one must also keep in mind that having such weapons does not guarantee victory. No capability is a silver bullet. The real advantage comes from how they are integrated: the sensor networks, the joint force, the logistics and sustainment, operational readiness, decision-making chains, training and resilience. The US is investing not just in the missiles, but in the full ecosystem around them. Fielding the LRHW battery, training military personnel, developing doctrine and tactics, integrating with satellites and command centers, these are the true markers of success. For instance, when the first LRHW battery was deployed to train and integrate with joint partners, the unit had already undergone weeks of training and the system had been moved thousands of miles overland in one exercise. In summary, Part 1's story is this: the US military is unveiling a next-gen strike capability that could rightly be called a secret weapon, in the sense that it dramatically expands options and compresses timelines. That capability rests on hypersonic strike systems, exemplified by the LRHW, that combine speed, range, maneuverability and networked integration, with a positive strategic framing. These weapons are not just about destructive power, they are about decision-making advantage, flexibility, deterrence, allied assurance, and innovation. The world is noticing because the era of doing big things slowly is giving way to doing smarter things fast. When Part 2 follows, I'll explore specific technological breakthroughs, deployment status, training and integration, and how this changes global strategic dynamics. For now, know that the US is crossing an important threshold, moving from "we can do this" to "we are doing this" in a major way.